Could add memes on top.
Oh, always good to add memes.
Oh, that's hot. All right, started.
I mean, we can also add memes. They're just very weak.
Oh, yes. That's weird.
We did it. So maybe let's just jump in because, hi, we're going to be talking about something I have absolutely no idea about. And
Yes.
I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on it.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you started talking about it, it piqued my interest, which is the topic of parasocial relations or relationships.
I don't think it's a difference. It's just parasocial stuff.
Parasocial stuff. Would you be so kind to tell me what on Earth's green planet that is?
Not sure if it's related to green Earth. Yeah, well, it. I also only stumbled upon this word like some months ago, and it's always heard in connection with streamers or with YouTube, with people showing themselves online as one person, and then there's like a huge group of people relating to that person, but not in a social way, but by like interacting or something, getting friends or whatever, acquaintances. But yeah, they're watching the content and feel in a way socially connected with this person, even though this streaming or YouTube or whatever person doesn't even know them. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's really interesting to see
so the parasocial relations is about that kind of relationship of there's one person, that person is personally making videos, so they are kind of feelable, hearable as, hi, I'm an individual. And then there is a whole group of people that relate to this person as an individual, even though they, for this person, are a group.
Yes, yes.
That's parasocial relations.
Yes, it's asymmetric and it's 1 to n usually. So 1 to many.
That's the mathematician in you. 1 to n.
Yes, that's a program in me. But yeah, and I think the interesting thing about it is the asymmetry. So it's not symmetric. It's not like 1 to 1. Like typically in a streaming setup, the streamer can talk with the chat. He can move, he can say something, he can react, he can choose with who to interact. The chat can just chat. Like they can just write and the streamer decides what he will interact with. So it's really asymmetric.
Yeah. Is this parasocial interaction or relation or relating different than it is, for instance, in a speaker on a stage and the crowd is interacting with him? Would there be a difference? And if so, how is parasocial?
I think it becomes interesting when there's not just like a singular interaction, but like the continued, like people usually they stay for years with the same streamer and interact with them. Like, I mean, this whole streaming stuff is like started around 10 years ago. So some people have these kind of parasocial relationships already 10 years. It's the same person. So this is a bit different than just like being in a crowd and listening to someone talk. But I can definitely see some connections with, fandom or like, if you're a fan of some musical, like some people, and then you go to their concerts, might also be called parasocial. I think it comes into the spotlight because it is such a huge thing today, like something so much bigger and something that's really.
So the parasocial relationship is about the asymmetry, but it's also the elongated time. So it's not just once, but it's having that through time, and
it's social.
that also this group is interacting with this person. They're also interacting amongst them. And it's that through time they form their own kind of relationships, their own kind of ways of relating.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that makes sense to me. Like, so far I can follow. Now I'm curious, what are you thinking about when you think about parasocial relationships?
So for me, it's first of all, but I see different sides of it. I mean, if I look at it, if I tune into my inner 50-year-old or 80-year-old, I say like, what the fuck can those people just? I mean, I am one of those people, but can these people just like have normal social interaction? Like that's not real friendship. It's just like it's just a taste of friendship. You don't even know this person, or at least this person doesn't know you. So what the fuck? Why are you doing this? So this is one side which I definitely understand, and yes, it's really interesting to also think about it that way. The other side is really
so basically one dude, all these people who don't have friends, and through their relationship with this dude, they kind of get a band-aid on their lack of friends.
Exactly. Yes. Yes, that would be the positive side of this. And going a bit further.
Well, it could be the positive side. It could also be they get a band-aid on it, so they're not looking for friends. So they're not like, okay, let's us be friends.
That's the whole. I think that's the main point. Like these two sides in this band-aid picture. And to elaborate a bit more on the positive side, I believe that it's also a very good thing for, like, usually the people that gather there have usually a bit social awkwardness, social anxiety. That's at least what you can see from more open chats where people speak about that people speak about it like, I have social anxiety. Many people say that. That it is a very easy way for them to have some interaction and to also learn interaction and feel good with themselves, where it's not like I'm sitting in front of you and I don't know what to say. I can just type something funny and either it will be heard or not, and then it's like there's not such a big threshold. Right?
So is what you are thinking about mostly on this question, like, is it good or bad?
That's one question that's always easy to think about. Like, is this a good thing or is it not a good thing? It's always a bit. I often think it's a bit stupid to ask this question, but
exactly.
or at least to ask like as if there is one answer, like it is good or it is bad.
Yeah, exactly. I would actually be much more curious, like, so I personally am not very much in that scene. So I don't really have any streamer I'm following. I have a few YouTubers, but I don't really feel like I have a personal relationship with any of them. I just have a few people who I enjoy watching because I usually learn something. That's more my relationship.
It's more education.
It's more like an educational. It's very very much not a personal endeavor for me. So the way you describe it is genuinely different than that. It is a personal thing to watch these channels. And what I'm interested in and what I imagine you have some thoughts on is more what's the psychological impact of it? What's the psychological impact on the person who is the one? Because I imagine that's a very strange position to be in. Like it's a very new type of celebrity where there is an immediacy and a distance that's both more than it has ever been. And also the point of what is it like for all of these people to be relating to one person where they may never get an answer, where they may never get anything back, even though they are directly interacting. Like, I'm really curious what the psychological dynamics and impacts of that are.
Yeah, definitely. While you were talking, I thought of different things. One thing is, I find it always interesting when there's conflict, how conflicts are resolved. Because I mean, in any group, it's always interesting how does the group resolve conflict, but especially in this setup, how does the streamer resolve the conflict of the group? Or typically, it's also the conflict of the group. There's something to the streamer. One typical example is backseating. So streamer plays some games, and the group tells him, do this, do that, do this, or spoilers like, this is going to happen. And this is a typical conflict situation where the streamer has to then say, please no backseating or whatever.
So just for me to follow, there are people who watch the streamer play a game, and that's what they do.
Yes, that's a typical streaming thing.
And the streamer will talk about the game,
about his
talk about something else.
Both.
Okay, yeah.
Like it always depends on the streamer, but typically it's they talk about the game, about the experience, or also about their daily life, or they talk with specific people. Depends on how big the chat is, how many people are there. You can also have slightly personal connections.
So this is the moment where I feel old, because I've never been in that scene. So I'm literally asking the questions that I imagine like a 50-year-old is asking, which is like, so is that how PewDiePie became famous? Which I imagine that's exactly what he did.
And this is a parasocial relation. I actually follow PewDiePie. I find it really interesting how he, I mean, for everyone who doesn't know, PewDiePie was like for 7 years the most followed, most subscribed channel on YouTube. Today he has more than 100 million subscribers. That's in the percentage of humans on Earth. It's like more than 1%. It's like, what the fuck? So if we had 10 billion, then it would be 1%. But yeah, and I mean, today he's mostly just talking. He's like sitting himself in front of the camera and talking about funny pictures or about his life, and he's just showing his personality. And 100 million of followers watch this. I mean, every video in the first day gets like 1 million clicks. So 1 million people watch this video of someone sitting in front of his camera and talking to the computer. It's weird.
I mean, knowing PewDiePie's videos, they're in one way they're edited, but they're not like deep
No.
or anything like that. It's him having weird fun with stupid stuff on the computer usually. Yes.
Today even less crazy than before. It's mostly just either reacting to some games or to some memes. This new word for funny pictures, or yeah. I mean, sometimes he also does philosophy streams. That's cool. He talks about philosophy books. But,
can I ask you about that? Like, what is it like for you to watch him?
It's a really, and I think there we get into the interesting part, because it's a really warm experience. It's really like I feel connected to PewDiePie. He doesn't even know me, and I really like him. And it's really like I get something from just watching this. It's like some parts of his really open, joyful, cheerful, authentic, vulnerable personality just drops onto me or something. It's just enjoyable. And I feel I mean, some people say you the mix of the 5 people you relate to the most or something. So I feel it kind of has an effect on me, an effect of just being allowed to be myself in a way, because he allows himself to be just his weird self, authentically, vulnerably, and yeah, and then yeah.
So it's that watching the video has that impact on you, and it has that impact probably because you've been watching his videos for years. So there is a certain field and state that you.
I only started some months ago, and the effect came very early. I think that's also part of his success. I mean, as soon as I understood that the whole controversy, I mean, there's many controversies about this guy, that they are all bullshit. It's really crazy, but doesn't matter. As soon as I saw 1, 2, 3 videos max, and I was like, that's a cool guy, that's enjoyable, and then I would just watch it more and more, and now I watch it almost always. And he puts out videos daily.
So that's also a distinction of he's not making like information-based videos or anything like that. He's literally making videos of him being him doing something.
Yes.
And I imagine that's really what this parasocial is about, is people just making like videos.
Hanging out with friends, just that you're not part of the group in a way. It's really weird that and I find it really interesting that it works for humans. I think it must have something to do with these mirror neurons or something, neurons, so that this can really feel like a social interaction to watch someone. It's fucking crazy.
So is it that what fascinates you, that point of,
yes,
I'm literally watching somebody play a game, he's talking shit, and I feel like I'm having a social interaction. Yeah, that is very strange.
Yeah. And I mean, there's also other parts that are interesting, like group mentality, group movements, like when PewDiePie says anything what they should do or shouldn't do, they will do it. So it's really interesting. Or like they always make memes about stuff. He does anything, like sometimes he shaves his beard in a way, and then they find like weird pictures in his beard, and then it happened once, and then he thought this really unfunny and said, I don't do it. Now they always do it. So so stuff like this is really interesting. Also in Twitch chat, to see like how the group suddenly, like everybody does the same. It's to see how this interaction works in a similar way like friends. I mean, with friends it would be the same, just that the one friend is a whole group of people.
So in this case, it's really also how this one dude can influence what all of these people do.
Yeah.
And is there anything you notice about that, how that works?
Yeah, I sadly, I will always like to have a comparison, to have like comparison of when it doesn't work. I mostly only see when it works, because like you see mostly successful streamers and YouTube stars or whatever. I got to think, do I know anything where it doesn't work so well? Yeah, what I find interesting, like one part is subscribing. YouTube subscribing, a very interesting topic, where people, they can really see on every channel, everybody does it in a different way. Some people just don't say anything. Some people say, if you like the content, consider subscribing or something. And some people say like, subscribe now, or some people really make fun of it and say, if you don't subscribe, you cannot watch my videos anymore and stuff. And the interesting thing is that, and there's really statistics for it, that people, that this group usually reacts much stronger by really doing what they're supposed to do, namely subscribing, when they're really told, when there's no option. You would expect if it's like, if you want to consider it, maybe then subscribe, then it's much less of an effect as when you say, hey, please subscribe.
Smash that subscribe button.
Yeah, smash the like button now on this video. Subscribe to Nikolas Forstmeyer.
But so it's also about, in these relationships, how do people know what to do, and how do people know how to behave, and what are the rules? Because it's the thing you say about it works best when people are told, please subscribe, or not even please subscribe now. Maybe with flashing red lights, like, subscribe now. Which would make sense if you think of, I'm in a group, I don't know how to be, which is also how, like, this would actually be what interests me most, but how individual psychology is different from group psychology. And how, when you study psychology, there's actually, like, social psychology has all of these laws that don't apply to one person or to two people interacting. But when we have a group, there's groupthink, and there are all of these different kind of implicit behavioral rules we suddenly use. So it's really interesting for me to think, so which of them is it? Because each person is sitting at home alone, probably. Are they behaving like a group? Are they behaving like individuals? What's the difference? Like, how do you perceive that?
So it's really interesting. I think you can see it in memes. You can see that different groups form their own language. Like I don't know if you can say some individuals form that, but like in some way the group forms its own language, and the members of the group speak that language, and they use different like words or sentences, or like, I mean, it's still English, but in these memes it's a typical like idioms, but just not from back then, but they are just formed in these groups. And there you can see that there's like a group movement that distinguishes itself from other groups by their language. And I mean, as an individual, you wouldn't use your own language, not to that extent. You would usually use the language of some group. I mean, we are speaking English right now.
But it's like you can create shorthands and like inside jokes and all of that. So
yes,
there's a group cohesion in that.
Yeah, just like in a friend group. Yes.
Yeah, it's like in a friend group, but it's not a friend group.
Yeah.
It's and I mean, this is kind of where now words come into play. Marketers would call it a tribe, or a I mean, then we have an in-group and an out-group, and all of those things apply. In your experience, like, what's the weirdest things you've experienced in this realm? Or the most surprising?
Well, what I find most surprising is how much money these people make. It's like that's really something that already came in mind before, but it's really so fucking interesting. But also, again, this subscribe mentality comes into play. How the people create this, or encourage this, or disencourage this. But like, I mean, you can live from your YouTube channel when you have like 100,000 subscribers. You don't have to do anything else anymore. You can live from the marketing income. But on Twitch or other streaming platforms, you get donations, and donations are one way to interact with the streamer. In typical streams, you give a donation of $1 to $10, but sometimes also much more, and some text-to-speech device is speaking it. Like you can send a sentence and then everybody hears it. Like the streamer hears it and the group hears it, and so you can be slightly part of it.
So you become part of the stream in that
yes,
moment.
Exactly. You stand out of the group then. And like some people, I mean, as soon as you have like 1,000 people on your stream, you get like all the time. There's like every minute there's some kind of donation. There are subscribers that pay them monthly like €2.50 or €5 per month. Yeah, it's really crazy. These people can just live from this, and very well. Like some people like are getting so crazily rich, and even sometimes talk about it, and it doesn't disencourage people to still give money. It's so crazy. And I mean,
this would make sense with this idea that it's kind of like having a friend, because you want your friend to do well. So you want to support your friend.
Yeah, but I mean, the friend is not poor. That's the weird thing. The friend has more money than you have. And you still throw money at him.
But he only has that money because I give him the money, and I know that. So I imagine this would actually, if I think about it, this is not where it's an individual and a group, but where it's kind of this individual is turned into something. I invest in that person. I invest in that human, and through that, the human becomes something bigger. Just like PewDiePie is not just, I think his name is Felix Kjellberg or something like that, something Swedish.
Something Swedish.
So he's not just that individual, but he's turned into PewDiePie. And PewDiePie is PewDiePie because of what he does, but also because of what he gets, what he receives. So it's, in a sense,
the group forms the leader. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and maybe that's where actually this parasocial relationship, or these parasocial relationships, create a new, like some new social forms of interacting, and actually new forms of celebrity and of influence, which makes sense, which is why influencer marketing is such a big thing, because if PewDiePie tells you to buy something, it's like your friend telling you to buy something, which is way more than it's ever been with like TV stars or movie stars.
Yes. And I find it's like I think this is the dynamic is a very typical one. It's just it has changed a bit through these internet possibilities. I think it's the same dynamic than like having a friend group where there's a leader in the group, where there's someone who's saying what you're gonna do in the evening, what the group is gonna do. I think often in slightly bigger friend groups, something like that forms, or it changes also. But like this kind of thing. Also in like workshops or seminars, there's always a clear group leader. And I think there's a similar dynamic of interacting with the group. And the group also interacting with the leader and telling him, okay, this doesn't work. The group doesn't have a resonance to that. Yes. So, yeah. And it's really interesting how in a way some dynamics get visible by this clear like an enlargement in a way, that there's such a big group, such a like against one leader still, and where there's also no fluctuation. There's no possibility that someone in the group can be the new leader, because it's just not possible. There's like he will have to form his own group.
In your experience, what makes these streamers become successful?
Yes, that's a big question I ask myself, and that's why one reason why I watch many different streamers, to just see what's the difference. And what I can see or say is, like, one thing is positivity, that people have like they never come on stream and like totally like negative to everything. Like, ah, this is shitty. They might have a bad day, and they might say that they had a bad day, but they still will joke about it. They will be lighthearted. Then, in a way, energy, like just having the energy to lead a group, to have the energy to say what's gonna happen now, what's the what are we focusing on right now. Then one big point is to have also some kind of an empathetic, open heart kind of thing. That I mean, sometimes some people have these text-to-speech donations where they tell like their shitty story. My girlfriend left me, my mom died, or whatever. And I mean, you have to react on this as a streamer. And then some people say, oh shit, sorry, bad vibes, please fuck off. That's probably not the best way. I haven't seen that, but I would imagine that that's not, like, in this kind of energy, that wouldn't work so well. But to have the energy to, and also the knowledge to choose, like, how much energy, how much attention do you give to this? Like, how long will you talk about this? How long will you say, oh, I'm sorry, or give advice or whatever?
That's like an emotional intelligence.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I think you really need much emotional intelligence for these kind of things. And then there's this word that is thrown around in YouTube so much, authenticity. Like, to feel real, to feel authentic, to feel like you're not hiding something, that you're really showing yourself as who you are, as the weird human you are. And it's hard to describe it. If I would describe it to an alien, I think I wouldn't be able to. But it's, and I mean,
what do these people do? I don't know.
So yeah, but I think we all have a sense of someone really being himself, to the relaxed, open, and where somehow something real shines through. I don't know. And we also have a sense when this doesn't happen.
I mean, we do, and this would actually play into some of the things we've also been talking about these past days, of like narcissism, psychopathy, where even for professional psychologists, it's almost impossible to know who's actually a psychopath or a narcissist, even though they may have worked with these kind of people for 20 years. So I think that you can just tell. I think we can tell. I'm not sure we are that great at it, or if somebody wants to genuinely deceive us, that we always catch it. So that's kind of just a thought that pops up, because I imagine it's also an incredible playground to present a certain image. and there's very little possibility to check that, just like with any celebrity. The place where my mind went is this is such an incredible power to have that kind of tight-knit relationship with a group, to be the one person that gets the attention, and to through that influence what people think and see and all of that, will play such a massive role in stuff like politics, society, because more and more of that is moving online anyways. So so what does that actually, like, in the coming years, how will this phenomenon develop and also impact this? Because having 10,000 people that follow you online is a lot easier to get than 10,000 people who follow you in your like living room. So that's a very interesting question. Like, what's going to be the impact of that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking, like, where can I actually see effects of these groups on the outside of the group, not just on the members of the group. And I can see.
Maybe just to give an example of that, it's the people who are organizing the Corona Querdenken protests here in Germany. They have a lot of their communication going online. It's not a streamer, but they had the impact of, through a YouTube message saying, our protests were denied by the government. Please, people, sign up new protests. And within a day, they had 7,000 protests handed in by to the police. Like, that's power.
Yeah.
To be able to say that and people do something.
Yes, yes.
I mean,
in this direction, I would have thought as well.
Yeah, these are not streamers. This is not the same thing, but in a way,
similar.
They are people who vlog, who have videos, and through that they have people following them for the news, because they distrust all of the corporate news. So they're like, I believe this person, and they are thus spokespeople and leaders in that field.
Yes, it's still a parasocial relationship, I would say. I mean, it's then less about their personality, but about their politics, about their approach to life.
And it's also about the sense of authenticity that you named, that people perceive them to be honest. Whether they are or not, totally different question, but that they have that sense of, oh, that's a real human being that's fighting for the same thing I'm fighting for. I'm going to support that person.
Yeah. 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 So this also comes into the point of, like, in the group, we tend to accept the facts that the leader gives us. Like, not many people do fact checking, especially if you're in the group and everybody in the group believes the same stuff. You will typically not criticize that or doubt that. And it doesn't matter that much whether it's true or not. It's the belief of the group. Yeah.
So I'm still curious, like, what do you have any wacky thoughts about this? Like, wacky, energetic, spiritual thoughts about parasocial relationships?
Not yet.
I would have expected that.
No, I have stopped having wacky thoughts at some point, because they are always just I mean, Yeah, but let's see. So, how could we see this in a spiritual way or in a like energetical way?
I mean, the one thing I'm thinking about with this is the question of where do we actually live? And my sense is that what's happening through the internet, through what's going on with that, that actually, in one way, the internet is becoming more and more real. And that the question of, oh, I live in this apartment, but it doesn't matter because I have all of my friends in
Online.
this parallel universe. So, so that's one thing that's happening, and that would also mean that the 80-year-old you were channeling earlier is like, what about that as a real relationship? But in another way, that is becoming more and more the reality of how humans may interact. So it's like, in a way, our reality, what we care about, what is important to us, is more and more online. It may be that that person I'm watching, even though they don't even know my name, they've never heard of me, all they know is that sometimes I send money and it says, I had a great day or I had a shit day. I care more about that person than my neighbor, my sister, my girlfriend.
Yeah, in some sense, in some cases. Yes. Yeah, and I would think that this is also not new. It's just more visible today. I think we always lived in kind of social spheres, but they were always connected with reality because we could only interact when we would meet.
But I mean, if you look at the industry of paparazzi, celebrity, what percentage of newspapers is about celebrities?
I don't know.
I have no idea, but like if you look at these newspaper stands, it's a shitload. Like there are so many magazines that just follow Brad Pitt around and go like, "What are you doing, Brad?" And so that's always been the case. Like people have been following that, but it's more direct now.
Yes, yes.
So it seems to me like this is more a topic you're thinking about, and it's actually like you're inquiring into this.
Yes.
Yeah, and
That's how.
what's interesting for me is that I'd never consciously thought about this very much. Also because I think it's not something I'm very big in. But that this, that's actually a pretty big thing, and that it's
Yes.
gonna get bigger in the next years.
Yeah. Yeah. So especially this internet part of it. Yes. And
So, do you have maybe any closing thoughts as we are wrapping this up?
I'm still wondering about your part of the power thing, because I've never seen it that way, because like the biggest thing of power I have seen yet was like when a group was like, if some leader says, this person is a shitty person, this other streamer or YouTuber, then they typically harass them, and the streamer has to say, please don't harass them, I just say they are shitty. So this is like a kind of power, but I mean, it's not that big problematic.
I mean, that is actually huge, to be able to determine who gets attacked. That's a biggie.
Yeah, but it's a singular person, but or a group of person. I mean, you can also like shit on pickup artists or whatever. I mean, or Nazis, or not that they don't deserve to be shit on, but that's a different topic. I mean, you can also send groups against other groups. Yeah. Yeah. I definitely find it interesting. I also enjoy it. I also find it interesting in me to like, what do I get out of it? Why do I do this? And yeah, and I'm definitely interested in also trying this out for myself once, just to see like how is it in the other role. Like, I think it's a very different experience. I wish I could tell you about that one.
To be the singular person.
Yes, I think it's
well,
really
you just have to build your streaming fame now.
Yes.
What?
Subscribe to me. I don't have a YouTube channel.
I would subscribe to you.
Yeah, I bet I already subscribed to you.
Then I would send you weird messages.
Send me pictures of your feet. That happens sometimes.
That's also important. So maybe that's it for today. And I'm actually curious if you have any sense of how you really had an insight around this. I would be really curious to hear if in the future that happens, because I find this, like, this is a slightly strange topic to think about, but it's actually really important, because it's one underpinning of social life. And I think it's this social life in like social constructs, but also kind of narratives and all of that, and that it now comes together with this. There are people sitting in front of their computer going like, oh yeah, oh, no, I had a bad day. Oh, look at that, the game is weird. And like it's really hanging out. Like how incredibly weird is that?
Yeah. No.
So an invitation to share more when you come across anything weird.
Yes, I bet also now that we talked about it, I will have a different perspective on it, or like a different awareness of looking at it, much more aware, even more.
So that much for today. I'm gonna press stop.
You never know what's around the next corner. So.